Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. I just flew in from Barcelona, and boy, am I, well, you know the joke. We're back from ISE, and I'm here with my good friend Eric Krapf. Eric, who's been with Enterprise Connect for a long time and is kind of changing roles this year, right, Eric? Tell us about your new role.
I am. Thanks so much again for having me, David, as always, and being such a great supporter for the show. I moved, as you say, I was at Enterprise Connect for 25 plus years, and kind of just recently moved into kind of semi-retirement. So I'm working just part-time for the show as the content lead or person responsible for the program. I had been the lead for the entire event for about a decade and now pass that along to a great new person named Kara Shukas, who will be out and about in Vegas. And I hope a lot of you get a chance to meet her. She's great.
And since you mentioned it, that's actually the other thing that's a major change is this is the first time Enterprise Connect is not going to be at the Gaylord in Florida. We're now going to be in Vegas this year, right?
That's right. A big change. Like you say, we're a long time in Florida, and it was a great venue for us. But decided just the event needed a change, needed some new energy, and Vegas is where a lot of shows are going these days. And so we're at the Caesar's Forum, which is not Caesar's Palace, but it's a purely convention venue on the Strip next to. It's close to the Venetian, and there's a couple hotels associated with that we can talk about where folks will be staying. Beautiful new venue, and so we're super excited about the new audience we can draw from more to the West Coast. We think Vegas is still easier to get to from the East Coast than Orlando was from the West Coast. So we're hoping that bring a lot of people with us and hopefully get some new folks too to join us from further west.
All right, so I'm going to start with the logistics and I'm going to end with the logistics, but let's specifically talk about the dates. When is it happening? It's like 3 or so weeks from now, right?
It is less, just about, yeah. It's March 10th through 12th, Tuesday through Thursday, which is just quickly another great thing. We used to the old form was we went Monday morning, 8 a.m. through Thursday. That meant if you wanted to go to the whole show starting first thing, you had to fly in over the weekend. Now we've got this midweek date pattern where you can fly in on Tuesday, or I'm sorry, you fly in on Monday, and Tuesday you're ready to go 8 a.m. and then 3 straight full days of the event.
Okay. And all 3 days of the event are taking place, as you said, at Caesar's Forum. It's starting early in the morning. I know because I've got an early morning session that I'm helping moderate on there. And so the format's slightly different, right? The sessions are a little different length. The keynotes are a little different. Give us the top level view of how it's changed.
We've kind of one of the things that a lot of attendees asked for in our most recent set of surveys this past year was for kind of shorter, tighter, quicker content. So the breakout sessions are half an hour. The keynotes we got a 2 hour block for keynotes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with some pretty quick kind of changes and transitions on the keynote stage so that we can get more in. We've got a terrific MC, Justin Robbins, who's an analyst in the communications and CX space, who's going to kind of help move those transitions and kind of have that be a really dynamic couple of hours where you're just constantly being engaged by what's on the stage.
All right, so tell me what I can expect as an attendee. That's a little different from the experiences I've had over the last 2 decades, something like that. Where, I would understand that there was an exhibit hall that was open during a certain time, and there was a stage that was open for keynotes, and then there were breakout rooms. But then there was also like the atrium, and then there was the coffee shop and these other places where we could go have meetings. How will that work this year?
Well, as I said, this particular venue, Caesar's Forum, is just a convention center. There are a couple of hotels that have sort of breezeways or walkways connected to them, Link and Harrah's, and it's actually they're pretty close. When I walked in on a site visit last fall, it was actually a little quicker to get from my room in Harrah's down to the convention center than it was at the Gaylord. But still the convention the Caesars Forum convention area is just meeting space, and so we're kind of loading that up with as much as we can things that will appeal to people to keep them on site. There's more temptations up and down the strip maybe than the Gaylord was kind of in its own little world.
Yeah, we aren't going
Um,
to do too much dancing with gators, but
but there are, some casinos and some other things that people, and people may be staying other places. But so we're going to make it really easy to stay on site all day and get what you need in terms of food, in terms of space where you can sit down and do your email, and you got good connectivity and places where there's little bits of light entertainment, or there'll be a DJ in some different spots throughout the day. Just kind of spaces that are a little more planned for the different. It's almost like a version of an office where you're trying to, that idea of activity areas within an office, some quiet space, some sort of the bulk work area, which you can think of the expo floor and the conference area as, but then other areas where people can do what they need to do while they're attending the show. And we're building that out.
so give me a handful of if I want to meet a friend to catch up, or if I want to meet a vendor to catch up, what are the kind of places I can tell them that I can meet them?
You can meet them. We're going to have something that'll be called a networking hall. One of the nice things about this venue is it's Vegas distances, so it's big, but it's all in one contiguous spot. So you kind of have a networking and keynote area, you have expo area, and you have a conference area, and they're just boom, boom, boom. So it's easy to figure out what's what and where to go. And so if we have this, as I say, this networking hall where there's going to be meetup space, there's going to be again sort of quiet areas with power so you can do work. There'll be spaces built within the expo floor that'll be especially for networking and meetups, both informal and things like there'll be speed networking again. We're taking the Enterprise Connect headquarters booth and doing sort of a experiential thing where we're bringing in industry experts to kind of have I think we call it hot takes and cold drinks. And the idea is some more informal engagement with experts and let people kind of debate or just talk or get some questions answered informally. And so we're trying to kind of build some of those informal spaces throughout. There's also going to be each of these areas that I talked about, those three main areas have gotten, blocked out, hard walled or air walled meeting rooms that the sponsors again are renting out. And so if you're meeting with a particular sponsor, there's a good likelihood they'll have a dedicated meeting room where they're taking a lot of their meetings. In addition to the space that they've got on the floor, they may be doing more of their dedicated smaller group meetings there in the meeting spaces.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about topics. What's really hot going to be? What's going to be really hot in the keynotes and the sessions this year? Because I know you've been looking at the program, and I know you've been talking with me about the stuff that I'm doing. So you must be talking with everybody else. Well, what do you think are like the top two or three things that you're excited about this year?
Well, obviously AI, is no surprise. But we're trying, there's so many different angles you need to talk about AI from, in AV, it's its own thing about what are the capabilities you're bringing to AV with AI. CX is a huge area where, we've got sessions built around how are you using AI to improve customer service and is self-service and that sort of thing. And then, with collaboration, the kind of meeting assistants that the big platform providers all have, the transcription and meeting summary and all that other kind of stuff. What's really going on with that? There's a lot there. And then some of the just sort of homegrown. We got one session where We're in we're doing these summits on Tuesday, half a day. One of them dedicated just to AI, and a session where companies will talk about here. We maybe a company that built its own internal chatbot. Here's how you do that. Here's how you make decisions about LLMs or build versus buy. Certainly, all the questions that people have about use cases and ROI and implementation and user adoption and all that stuff. So that's like all under the heading of AI. So that's that's one very big topic. I think collaboration, that's kind of getting, it's got the AI piece of it, but then it's still got kind of a whole we built tracks around kind of topics, and one of them we focused on was legacy, because there's still, a ton of legacy infrastructure out there that enterprises have got to tend to and have got to, figure out how do you extend that value, how do you avoid the costs, as the investment gets older and you've got these service contracts or whatever. How do you um, look to the cloud, in a forward-looking way? There's, the larger cloud debate and discussion has evolved so much, and how does that impact what you're thinking about UCAS or CCAS? Your colleague Dave Michaels is doing a great session on sort of what's the post UCAS world look like, at least post pure play UCAS. So I think that whole how do you assemble the piece parts of a collaboration service in 2026 that your users that matches how your users want to collaborate and do that work.
No sessions on the metaverse this year.
Apparently that's not a thing anymore. Who knew?
Yeah,
Um,
who knew exactly? And who
Never
knows
mind.
what AI will be in another, 5 or 10 years. But it's been an interesting evolving terms du jour that we have to deal with in our industry and in our space. Um, any specific keynotes you want to highlight that people would be interested in attending?
We've got a kind of a futurist, a woman named Heather McGowan, who's going to. I mean, I think one of the things that we try to do, and we have a couple breakout sessions too, where we want to, you. I think a lot of understanding what you're going to do with AI is about context and is about understanding not just the technology of AI, but the role of AI in your end users and your customers' worlds. And so she's going to talk about that from a very futuristic standpoint and a very strategic standpoint. Um, we've got some of the vendors. We got a few vendors giving keynotes, and we've also got some really interesting user panels on the keynote stage. We've got one on security that's going to feature a guy with the LA Department of Children and Family Services, which you can imagine what sort of concerns they have about things like deep fakes, which it's amazed me how many security people are really worried about deep fakes already being injected into collaboration. And so, I mean, that's, if nothing else, AI is creating a lot of buzz for security. And so we got that guy, as well as um, a gentleman who's with a pharmaceutical called Amicus Therapeutics. And then also a security expert from MasterCard on that session. So I think that'll be a really interesting discussion. Got a couple of enterprises talking about how they're doing AI, and prioritizing and making those decisions about ROI and use cases and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. We got some end users on the stage. People always love that.
No astronauts this year.
He was great. Mike Massimino, who people may know from TV as well as from being an astronaut, and there were so many people who quoted he had a particular line about how he was up there fixing the Hubble telescope, and he like snapped a nut off or a screw off or something, and he said, my rule is I beat myself up for 30 seconds about something like that, and then I move on. So he was like, for 30 seconds, I told myself, we'll never know how life on Earth originated because I broke this screw, and then finished it and moved on. And people are like, that's what I started telling my team.
Excellent. How does it end this year? What's the last session? I think you've changed that a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, we used to do a lock note at the end, and that was tied to kind of the way Thursday was sort of this half day that it was after the show floor closed, and so many of the people had already gone home at the end of Wednesday when the floor was done. This time we've got sessions running right up to the end, but we don't have kind of a single kind of tie it all together session at the end. I think there's always, the show floor goes pretty much to the end of Thursday. And so in any show, there's always kind of you're doing the balance between conference and expo and get people to both places or get people one last, trip around the show floor to see anybody they've missed and don't pull away from that. So it's going to kind of run right up to the line at 5 o'clock or maybe 4 on Thursday, and then we're out of there.
Well, it is Vegas. I hear there might be like a bar somewhere where people can have a toast to celebrate the new venue of the show and how everything went.
It might be something way to spend your money on. So.
One or two in the area. It's even one you're right near the high roller. There's a bar car in the high roller that you can go up on.
And
Um,
yeah, as a matter of fact, that's something I think there's some kind of deal with our sponsors. I'm not sure quite all the ground rules where the sponsor can get a customer, can take a customer up in the high roller, which takes something like half an hour to go completely around. So your customer's kind of a captive audience for a while, and they get an incredible view of Vegas and some cocktails, and they talk to their vendor.
Terrific. All right. So as I promised, I wanted to do the logistics one more time. First of all, if someone hasn't registered yet, silly, how can they get information? How can they register? Is there a discount code available? What's the deal with that?
Best thing to do is just go to enterpriseconnect.com. That's the homepage. There's a click on page for passes and pricing that'll take you to registration. If you use the code DANTO, just use your last name. That gets them, I forget, I think it's $400 discount, but that gets them one of the best discounts. So that's the way to get your best deal. And the pricing tiers constantly, kind of expire, and then the next tier is a little bit more expensive. So that's encouragement to kind of register as soon as you can. Um,
Sooner's better than later.
that's right.
And the plan is to fly in on Monday, attend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you're not familiar with Vegas, you can pretty much come in or leave anytime you want. There are plenty of red-eye flights if you want to leave when it's over on Thursday, or you can stay Thursday and leave on Friday, or you can stay the weekend before or after. The weekend before is my wedding anniversary. I can't convince my wife to take another trip to Vegas, but if she was interested, that would be a nice way to spend the weekend before the show starts.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, like you've been going to shows in Vegas for years and have never been able to convince my wife to at least give it a shot. But one of these years, we'll take the weekend and at least check out some shows.
Yeah, it's nice to be a tourist once in a while to just like not have to wake up early and not have to do anything. But pretty much whenever I travel into a city that's not for leisure, it's up at 5 in the morning and getting ready for a conference. And I think one of the sessions, the session that I'm moderating about AV interoperability on Thursday morning, it's an early morning session, but still I have a client that squeaked in a conference call that I'm going to have to take from the venue a half an hour before the conference starts. So the business stuff never stops.
For sure, especially you're on the West Coast time, and so everybody
What are
else.
the dates again?
It is March 10th through 12th at Caesars Forum in Las Vegas.
March 10th through 12th, Caesar's Forum, which is not Caesar's Palace, owned by the same people, but different location. And it's enterpriseconnect.com to get more information.
Correct.
Eric, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks and going through the annual ritual of no coquina lawn, no this, no gators, but talking about collab with a whole bunch of other geeks that are really interested in it.
Well, thank you so much, David. Thank you for being such a great supporter of the show over the years. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
And thank you very much for watching the shows you do every week. For now, I'm David Danto. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.